So let's talk about what I've been reading. Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to give you an update on what I've been reading. I think I did an update Monday, but don't worry about that because if I wait the whole weekend, I think I'll just be read too much because I'm reading almost a book a day because of middle grade March. And I have several books going at one time, but I'm finishing them so quick as I'm reading for March Mystery Madness as well as middle grade March. So I'm afraid I'm going to have too much to talk about. I thought I'm going to go ahead and post what I've been reading today and then start afresh next week. And I hope that's okay with you. I just don't want it to be a super long video, and I get all mumbo jumbled as I'm talking the longer it goes. So I thought I would go ahead and do this. Before I do though, I just want to say I love our middle grade March shirts. These are so cute. The quality of the shirt is great too. It's super soft. It's a great fit for sizing, because sometimes I worry about the cut on the t-shirts, you know what I mean? The fit is great. It's true to size for me. And the logo is colorful and just outstanding. I love it. I think it's so cute. So I ordered the shirt. When I saw the logo, I was like, yes, I've got to have that. And then I ordered the cup, and the mug really holds a lot of coffee too. I love the mug. So I've been drinking out of my mug. And then I also ordered a couple of the stickers. They're fantastic, great quality. And then Amanda at the Curly Reader, she's one of our hosts. She makes these great bookmarks. And so she made a middle grade March bookmark too. This one has 2023 on the back and then the middle grade March on the front. They're super sturdy, super cute. I am a nerd about bookmarks. So for my middle grade March, I pulled out my Matilda bookmark, the middle grade March bookmark from last year, this one, and then I think I have one that Amanda had made that had like a quote on it or something that was for children's books. So I have all those out, and that's what I'm using for middle grade March. I know that's silly for some people, but it's just fun for me. As a person that loves all things bookish, this just excites me. The shirt excites me. The mug excites me. I just love it. So thank you for creating these things. I know that took extra time, but I'm really enjoying using all the things, and it just makes it super fun. So anyway, I am enjoying that. So the first book I want to talk about is A Pocket Full of Rye by Agatha Christie. This is another Miss Marple, and for Serious About series, I decided one of my challenges would be to read all the Miss Marple books, or finish reading all the Miss Marple books this year. So this fulfills that, since it is a Miss Marple, and it also fulfills a prompt on the March Mystery Madness. So I read this one and loved it. As soon as I finished this, I loved it so much that I went straight to my bookshelf and pulled another Miss Marple out, because I am really enjoying Miss Marple. I like the way that Agatha Christie writes her character. In this one, we have a man who has rye in his pocket. He has a pocket full of rye, and he dies mysteriously. So of course, later on they find out, okay, he was murdered. And the story goes from there. It's all the usual suspects. You're not sure who did it. You know, all the normal things in a classic mystery, and of course an Agatha Christie mystery. This one I thought I had solved. Now I've done this a couple times with Agatha Christie. I mean, I really knew. I was just like 100% sure that, yeah, I figured this one out. And right at the end, nope. I had it wrong. So I have yet to figure out any of these. I have not solved one Agatha Christie, not just Miss Marple, but one Agatha Christie. So I don't know what that says about me, but I have yet to solve an Agatha Christie mystery. Anyway, I really enjoyed this one. It does have the nursery rhyme in there. She does that a lot. I'm finding that Agatha Christie uses a lot of nursery rhymes and different little sayings and things in her books, and I love that because I think that's a fun way, a fun approach, and something just a little different that she does. So anyway, this one was a fun one. It was pretty short. This was not long at all. It didn't take me long at all. 186 pages. So if you're just trying to squeeze in a book for March Mystery Madness, you might want to pick this one up. So the next book I read was for Middle Grade March. That is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is beautiful. It sings off the page. It's written in verse, and it is so poetic and so beautiful and so heartfelt. It's just gorgeous. I mean, I was shedding tears by the end of this book. Jacqueline Woodson is telling her childhood memories through this. She was born in the early 1960s, so this is told from the 1960s and 70s. And what was interesting was because she lived in not only the South, but part of her childhood she lived in the North. So it was the differences between that during the Civil Rights Movement. She also talks about being raised a Jehovah's Witness. Her grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness, so there's the faith element and how she struggled with that, being different because of her faith. There's a lot of different things that she explores in here, just from a child's perspective, and those memories of the struggles in, you know, she's raised here in the South, and then she goes up north and they, you know, don't understand. She talks different, you know, those kind of things. But also when she's in the South, she has the animosity of people because of the Civil Rights Movement. So it was just heartfelt. I mean, my heart just went out to her and her family and the things that they had to go through, as well as, you know, just there were also some beautiful memories of her love for the South as well, and her love for South Carolina, which is where I'm from. And she would bring out things about the sights and smells and experiences living in the small towns of South Carolina, and I definitely could relate to that part. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with the other things she talked about, but I could definitely, you know, relate to her connection with just the nature around her living in South Carolina, because I experienced that even today. So I did enjoy this. It was gorgeous. I love the way that she told her story. Just a beautiful story of this girl's experience growing up between two worlds, really, in the 1960s and the 1970s. I highly recommend Brown Girl Dreaming. Again, it's written in verse. So then I picked up The Voyages of Dr. Doolittle by Hugh Lofton. This is a Newbery winner from the early 1920s, and that's why I wanted to read it. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. It's told in little episodes of Dr. Doolittle's voyages and his adventures. And Dr. Doolittle is special because he can communicate with animals. He knows their language and he can literally talk to them. There is a scene in this that I loved. It was the most memorable scene for me, was Dr. Doolittle actually putting a dog on the stand as a witness in a crime, in a court case. And he talks to the dog and finds out what the dog witnessed at this crime scene. I loved it. I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And that's what this is. All the way through it, he is communicating with the animals as he travels all over the place. And he has a little boy that goes with him, and the little boy is telling this story. So it's from the little boy's perspective. This is from the early 1920s. Keep that in mind because it is dated in how they handle Native people and those sort of things. Keep that in mind, of course. You know, I still say read it because I don't think you should censor people or change what people said. I mean, this man's not here to defend himself. I'm sure if he wrote this today, he would have been knowledgeable about some things that he wasn't so knowledgeable about in his time. So we have to give people grace for those things. Anyway, I do recommend this one. I thought it was great. I highly recommend it. The Voyages of Dr. Doolittle, I think that there are more in this series. I'm not sure. But I think that I have seen, when I was looking this up on Goodreads, I think I saw other Dr. Doolittle books. Let me know in the comments if you know. So that was a good one. I enjoyed that. Then I read another book in a series that I'm trying to read for Serious About Series, and that is The Giver Quartet. I read this to fulfill the dystopian, I think it was sci-fi or dystopian was one of our prompts for Middle Grade March. And this is the second in the Giver Quartet. It's called Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. This was not long at all, but I could not put this down. It was a page turner. Again, it's a dystopian, and I am discovering that I love dystopians. I was telling my husband this morning, I have only read a handful of dystopians. I was one of those people that got sucked into Hunger Games when that came out, and I devoured that. I thought that it was amazing. Now, none of these have like character development or any of those things. And I tell you, Hunger Games is all about the premise that interested me so much. And the same with Gathering Blue and The Giver. I've read Fahrenheit 451. Now that one's an adult book, so it's told a little differently, but still, I loved it. So there is something about dystopians that I enjoy. Short stories like The Lottery and other dystopian type short stories, I find it to be fascinating. So if you have a great dystopian that you think I would like, let me know in the comments. But anyway, this was wonderful. It's told super simple, just like The Giver. When I first started The Giver, I thought, wow, the language is so simple. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. But it works for these dystopians because the language is so simple, it strips away all the flowery words. And that's the tone that is set for this dystopian society. So when it strips all those frills away, you can really feel the essence of what Lois Lowry is trying to say about this world. And so for me, it works. That super simple, here are the facts type of writing in this book and in The Giver works for this series. In this one, it's about a young girl who lives in this really poor village. They're primitive. I mean, it's like she has a cot and lives in a hut kind of thing. And then there's these guardians who call her, well, she's called in on trial. This lady wants her land. So they really want to just throw her out of the village, basically, to be devoured by these beasts that are out in this field. And so she's on trial to see if she's worth living anymore. She's crippled. She has a leg that she was born with some kind of issue with her leg. I think it's like her leg's twisted, so she has a limp. So because of that, many of the people thought that she shouldn't have survived, that she should have been tossed away to begin with. So that's the kind of society we're living in. They don't value life at all. Well, at the beginning of this story, her mother has passed away, and so they want her hut, the land that she has her hut on, they want to make a little playpen to put the younger children in to kind of corral them. So they want her land. And so this one woman, this mother that's part of this village, takes her to court to see if she's worth saving. She has someone defend her, and they decide because she has this special talent for weaving that they can use her to repair this robe that the singer, there's this singer that sings once a year to tell the history of this world, this society. And so she is saved because she has this special talent. And the story goes on from there, and I could not stop reading. I found it to be fascinating, and I highly recommend The Giver Quartet. This is number 2, and I can't wait to pick up the next one. The only thing I will say that I didn't like is you're left on a cliffhanger. And I know it's because she wants me to read the next book. I get that. But I still would like some kind of ending. I feel like The Giver did the same thing. And in The Giver, I was so taken by this dystopian society that I overlooked it. But now that it's happened a second time, I'm kind of annoyed by that. I want it to be some kind of closure for this particular book. And yes, I do want to read the next one, but I feel like that's a little bit of a manipulation to be continued. You've got to, read the next book. So anyway, that was the only thing I didn't like, was the cliffhanger in both The Giver and in this. But I think I already see a connection because The Giver and this are two different stories. The Giver is a totally different story. When I started this, I thought, okay, where are we? Because this is not The Giver world. So it's two different stories. But I think that I'm seeing a connection between them. I think there was a hint of a link at the end. Don't tell me if I'm wrong, right or wrong, but I think there was a link that's going to link these together. I'm not sure of that. Anyway, it has piqued my interest to want to keep reading, but I was a little annoyed that it just ended abruptly. So anyway, I read that one. And then finally, I read Chitty, Chitty, Bang, Bang by Ian Fleming. And I read this again for Middle Grade March. This was so much fun. Ian Fleming wrote the James Bond books. So if you're familiar with James Bond, then you're familiar with Ian Fleming. In this book, we have a man who, he's like an inventor, and he invents this whistle candy. And he sells the whistle candy and buys this jalopy of a car. And he and his wife and 2 children go on this adventure in this car that they name Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So much fun. There's magic. The car is magical, and they go on this adventure. There are things in here, though, if you recognize that Ian Fleming wrote the 007 James Bond spy stuff, you will recognize that in here. And I just found those elements, the nods to James Bond, to be fun. There's a couple of little things where we have like a secret place, and then we have some gangsters that are on the loose, and then they chase after this family. So it's really fun. It was a lot of fun, and I did laugh at a couple of things in here that were just, you know, funny. So I enjoyed this. I thought it was super fun. Another thing I will say about this one is this edition that I have is a weekly reader edition, and it has the best pictures in it. And as I was reading, I loved the illustrations because they had that nostalgic feel. I remember lots of books I read back in the day that had these type of illustrations. So it just gave me a nostalgic feel. So I think part of my fun with this was the nostalgic feel from the illustrations. I will say I also enjoyed it because I found an audio version of this, and David Tennant is narrating it. And I'm a huge David Tennant fan. I love David Tennant. So whenever I found that he was narrating this book, I had to listen. So I listened to David Tennant read it to me as I looked at these illustrations, and it was just fantastic. I will say that it was a little different than the book. Not the words. The story's the exact same story, but this book didn't have the chapters and the headings. As we were going, in the middle of a page would be at the end of a paragraph, and there'd be like this little music on the audio, and David Tennant would say chapter 3, and he would have a title. Well, that wasn't in this book. So I don't know if they changed this book somewhere along the line, you know, when they did an update. I'm not sure. But my edition was just like in parts. It was like part 3. Yeah, this was told in parts. So those chapters are not in here. But I did like the chapters, and I liked the titles that he gave. It just was confusing to begin with. I was like, wait a minute, you know, this is different. But everything else, word for word, was the same. I highly recommend this. It was cute. I think, you know, kids would enjoy this, the magical element of it. It is, you know, from its time, but I didn't feel like it was dated. I think kids today would still enjoy riding in a magical car on this kind of adventure. So I didn't think it was dated in that they wouldn't find it interesting still today. I highly recommend Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I know that they made a movie adaptation of this, and I know I saw that as a kid, but I only know, even when I was reading this, I don't remember the movie that much. So I don't know if I just watched bits and pieces of it, or if I just don't remember it, didn't pay attention. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go back and rewatch the movie, because I do remember seeing that on my television. When I was reading this, it did not feel like I had ever read this or seen this before. So I will go watch the movie adaptation as well. So those are the books that I read this week. I had a great time reading these middle grade books, as well as another book for March Mystery Madness. I have a whole nother stack for this next week, and I do hope to combine and read some middle grades that are mysteries so I can combine the two readathons that way. Are you reading anything for March Mystery Madness or Middle Grade March this week? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.